Hi, everyone. Thanks for being here. We're just going to wait another minute or so before we get started, just to let more people come into the room. Again, thanks for being here today. Just another minute or so and we'll get started as more people start to join. Okay. Hi, everyone. It's great to have you all join us today. I'm Samantha Raphael, the Lead Generation Marketing Manager here at Accusoft. I'm excited to welcome y'all to our webinar, Elevate Your Data Protection Strategy, Unlock the Power of Context-Based AI Redaction with Dan Lee, Senior Product Director, and Jameson Prianos, who will be demonstrating how the technology works. Just a bit of housekeeping before we get started. All attendees are in listen-only mode today. I'm sure y'all will have some great questions as Dan takes us through the presentation, so we welcome you to post them in the questions section of the webinar toolbar at any time, and Dan will answer them at the end of the presentation. Okay, over to you, Dan. Let's go ahead and get started.
All right, thanks, Samantha. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for spending a little bit of time with us this afternoon. We're excited to talk to you about, one of the new kind of emerging technologies that we're using here at Accusoft in our Prism Doc product, which is context-based AI redaction, and how this can help you in your document security strategy. Joining me today is Jameson Prianos, our Director of Strategic Engineering, as Samantha mentioned. We're going to talk about today, we're going to go through and cover kind of just a quick introduction of Accusoft. We'll go through and talk about what is context-based redaction. Then we're going to do a quick demo to kind of show you that in real life, how that actually would work. And then we'll come back and we'll talk about some of the key benefits of it and some potential applications across some different industries. And of course, address challenges and future trends. I mean, when we talk about AI, there's always a lot of both of those there, but it's a lot of exciting technology. And so we're looking forward to this presentation. So we'll go ahead and get started. Just a quick introduction on Accusoft for those of you that are new to Accusoft. Accusoft has been around for over 34 years now. We've been an innovation leader in the document processing space and SDK area with a lot of document processing tools, image processing tools, and toolkits that really can help customers advance their document processing workflows by bringing this advanced technology in there without having to develop all of that from scratch. We are a locally owned company here in Tampa, Florida. We've been, like I said, 34 years. We've been here since 1991, right in Tampa, locally owned, operated that whole time. We are a global company, though. We have over 1,250 customers worldwide that use our products, all of our products, in lots of various industries. So, trusted by worldwide companies trust our technology. We also provide world-class customer service, which is a big important thing for us. So, what is context-based redaction? So, we're going to talk about that. There's lots of different, reasons that people need to redact content in documents. Usually that's going to be around some kind of security and protection of information. But what context-based redaction is very specifically being able to use technology to kind of intelligently identify content within a document that needs to be redacted based on how that content is being presented. And that can be, the context can be different ways, and we'll talk about some of that, but it can be around like who you're sharing the document with, or it can be how the content that you're presenting is being presented. In other words, what is the kind of the context is the word for that, but how, one paragraph, the use of something might be okay to have, and another paragraph, it needs to be redacted. So, the one thing with redaction is, and with PrismDoc, we do also have a PII, personally identifiable information redaction as well. That's also AI driven. Is the process of going through and identifying these things that need to be redacted is very time consuming, but it's also very critical. So having a tool like PrismDoc enabled with the AI to help quickly streamline that process can save a lot of time, but also can be very critical in making sure that you're protecting, you're making sure that those critical pieces of information are safely redacted. As we said here, we're leveraging AI to do this and automate this to help create this security. We have a partnership with IBM, so we're using Watson X AI in our product, and that's largely what drives a lot of our AI features. And this really does go beyond just simple pattern matching or searching for terms and finding those terms. It really, what it does is it really is going to look at kind of how that context or how that word is being used in the context. So the process is in the background is quite kind of a lot going on, right? But when you talk about AI and you talk about automation, this stuff tends to happen fairly fast, right? Depending on the size of the document, the processing can take longer, but it always starts with ingestion, right? So you bring in the document. Documents can be uploaded in multiple different formats, and with PrismDoc we support over 100 different file formats. But the common documents that are going to be used in these kind of workflows are your Words, your PDFs, your Excels, those type of files, where you've got content and probably a document that you're sharing with people outside your organization or other companies, and you need to be able to have the tool go through and look at that. So the natural language processing is going to use AI to analyze the text and understand the meaning and the relationships and the entities that are in that document. And so as it understands that stuff, it's going to start to identify where some potential sensitive data could be. And that's where you kind of get into the entity recognition. So this is recognizing very specific things. So depending on what you're trying to have redacted, sometimes this works very hand in hand with your PII detection as well, right? Because you might be looking for names or addresses or social security numbers or financial data. You could be looking at things like formulas for products that you're making, or it could be even the name of a company and what context that's being used. So it goes through it. It identifies what are those things that are critical or potentially sensitive data. And then contextually, it'll do the contextual analysis to look at it and say, okay, let's evaluate the surrounding text to determine if this data is truly sensitive in this case. And it could be, like I said, in how it's presented in the document. It also could be based on who you're sending that document to or sharing that information with. And so it tries to distinguish between like general mentions of something versus sensitive instances. And once it identifies that, then it can send that data through to be automatically processed so that it can be redacted or can be automatically highlighted for redaction. So both cases are available, right? You can just rely on the technology and say, hey, automatically redact this stuff, and then you could still have that review and validation at the end, where you have a person that goes through and looks at what's redacted and then makes sure that nothing was missed. Or you can have it in a way where it just highlights it, and then what you've done now is streamlined it for the person who's responsible for the redaction to go through the document and have those things already called out for them so that they can just click a button and say, yes, redact this, no, don't redact this. And it speeds up that whole process and really kind of helps support your company to make sure that you're, have a process that's going to provide accurate results and going to keep your company compliant. So that's a little bit about, that's a kind of overview of how context-based redaction works. So what I want to do now is I want to turn it over to Jameson. And Jameson's going to take us through a demo to show this working in Prism Doc. So what Jameson's going to show you is kind of our first version of this that we've kind of developed as a proof of concept at this point. We here at Accusoft have, as I mentioned earlier, we've done PII detection and redaction last year. That was a feature we brought. We've also brought a bunch of other AI features around summarization of documents, tagging and classification of documents, and document Q&A where you can chat with the document. So what that gives you is, again, a lot of advanced capabilities. And so we just continue to expand that. And this is kind of one of the next areas where we've seen a lot of interest from customers and being able to be a little bit more intelligent about what we're redacting using that context-based redaction. So Jameson, I think we're ready for you.
Okay, can everybody hear me all right? Dan, you good?
Yeah, I'm not seeing your screen yet.
Still not sharing the screen?
There. Not seeing the screen yet.
It says it's showing screen 3 and I'm seeing the preview on my screen, so I'm not sure how long it will take.
Let's just pause for a second there. One of the things we do see with GoToWebinar sometimes is it does have a little bit of a delay and when the screen sharing will come up. So what Jameson's going to show you, what's really interesting about this is, when we talk about the documents that we are showing within Prism Doc, we can show those, like I said, over 100 different document types that we can show in the viewer on any device. This can be your iPad, this can be your phone, this could be your desktop computer. And what's great about that is being able to bring those documents in there and not only view them, but then now once we go in there, if there's text in them, we can send that text and process that with AI with a variety of features like you're going to see here today. Or if it's an image-based document, we can actually run that through our OCR to create the text and then make sure that that can be processed as well. So having a little bit of a problem here with.
Okay, so it looks like we are seeing that. So I'm gonna assume everyone else can see here too. I'm gonna take this sample and upload a sample document about our integration with IBM here and open that up in the Prism Doc viewer. So we're going to be seeing now our Prism Doc document viewer. And we've previously been able to redact content based on manual selection or on plain text searches, regular expression searches. So sort of like older technologies. What we've added now is prototypes of contextual search, as Dan was sort of describing. So I'm going to use an AI-powered search here to ask some questions of the document. For example, which sentences mention IBM by name? And so this will use a large language model to take the document, query through, and figure out which sentences in here mention IBM. Any of their products, anything that mentions IBM, it'll highlight that for us and leave the rest alone. So these are all search results, just like we would do with our normal text-based search results or regular expression-based. We can go through each one of these and we can select them. We can modify them in any way. We can add and remove them from the list and we can act on them. So I'll go ahead and do one more just to sort of change the search here. We'll start over with no search results. And we'll search for which paragraphs of this document discuss Prism Doc collaborating with IBM. So now we're getting a little more specific. We're asking for paragraphs instead of sentences, and we're asking specifically only for those where we discuss the collaboration. And so we'll do the query to the large language model again, and we'll find just these couple of paragraphs that specifically mention both the IBM Watson X and Prism Doc and the partnership between them. And then I can take those, and again, like I said, we can do any of the actions that we normally do with our search results. So quick actions, I have these 2 search results. I can redact them from my document. So the way our redactions work, if you haven't used Prism Doc before, is these redactions are in flight. They're not finalized yet. So as the person who just redacted this, you can mouse over to see through, make sure you know exactly what's being redacted. You can remove these if you need to. And then at the end, when you save the document, the content behind the redactions will be completely removed from the document and they'll be replaced with the rectangles as you see on the screen. So these will become permanent and unable to be seen through when it's done. That's that. Turn this back over to you, Dan.
Great, thanks, Jameson. So, you know, one of the things I love about when we do any kind of demo, especially with AI or, you know, automation of our technology is, you know, just it always happens so fast, right? So there's all, you know, it's kind of one of those anticlimactic things because it's like, here's this great technology, it just happens so fast. And I think that's actually one of the benefits, right, is how fast these tools can streamline your processes. Of course, a big focus of and big benefit of context-based redaction is just that enhanced security, right? So anything that you can do in your workflow to make sure that you're identifying and protecting any sensitive data based on the specific use case is really important, right? Because that can cause, you know, very serious legal, you know, complications for your company. And so any tool that you can use to help kind of implement that in your process. A lot of times, you know, most companies are doing this in some form today. And when they do it, it's usually some kind of a manual process with a person. And we're not saying you have to remove a person. Let's make that job easier for that person. Let's streamline that so that we're just kind of giving ourselves a double check there. So it creates that efficiency, right? It's just automating and reduces the amount of manual effort that's required to do this. And then that, of course, opens up the ability to process larger volumes of documents. And, you know, especially if you're talking about something like e-discovery or something where you're processing very, very large volumes of documents, this, of course, can help streamline that process dramatically. Improved data governance, right? So, you know, making sure that you're applying consistent rules of an application of your redaction policies across all of your documents and throughout all of your workflows, right? That's, of course, a very important thing, just to make sure that if we've defined that we have certain rules of what gets redacted when distributed to certain people or certain organizations or certain groups of people, let's make sure that we're consistently redacting those things that need to be redacted in those specific contexts. And so, of course, this, of course, can support with that. And then, of course, you know, reduce, you know, the cost savings by just reducing, again, back to that efficiency, the amount of time that it takes to process all this, especially when you talk about large legal documents. You know, that can take a lot of time to read through those and identify what are the things that need to be, just identifying what needs to be redacted, but really identifying, again, you got to be thinking about, like, what are our redaction rules and who this document is going to. So lots of benefits to context-based redaction. And the combination of the AI working with PrismDoc really, I think, helps create some great efficiency there. You know, some examples of things, though, that you might need to redact and when we talk about context. So in industries like the pharmaceutical industry, where you may be working with research institutions or government institutions, you could be needing to share information with them, but based on the documents that you share, in certain instances, there may be specific formulas or clinical trial data and analysis stuff that maybe some parts of that information might need to be redacted. It's like maybe they need to see the results, but you don't want to be sharing, you know, like the people who were involved or specific details about those people. So that's a pretty good example of where this might be used. Same thing is true for anything like manufacturing, anywhere where you, and pharmaceuticals, this is true for as well, pharmaceutical manufacturing, anywhere where you have some kind of proprietary formulatic data that defines what makes up this product in a way that somebody who, if they were able to get a hold of that information, they could reproduce that product, right? Especially when you think about like cyber threats from entities, maybe foreign entities, or somebody that could potentially be have malcontent or intentions, right? That could hack into your system, and you want to make sure that if these documents were ever able to fall into those hands, that they're not able to get that formula and that information to be able to reproduce what you're manufacturing, because that's really what your business is built around. So that's very, very important. And again, this can help with that, because there are going to be cases where you do need to share that with information with people. So maybe you're sending data outside of your network in a document, but you're taking the document. In that case, you just need to make sure that that stuff is protected when it leaves your realm. So, and so anytime you do any kind of collaboration too, so if we kind of go back to the pharmaceutical use case of, potentially working with research partners or government agencies, there's going to be, review and approval processes and things where these information needs to be shared. So anytime a document is either being shared or somebody's accessing that same document, and you want to be able to control based on who they are, kind of maybe give them a redacted version of it, or if the document's actually leaving your organization, it's really critical for that. It could be also something that is related to maybe customer service, depending on the type of government. If you're working with like a government contractor or something, and you have some kind of support. If you're a vendor, you're doing some kind of support, maybe you're sharing out some documents. Could be with healthcare providers. Obviously, with healthcare, you're going to have any kind of personal, health information, that type of stuff that you're going to want to secure. But anytime there's collaboration where we have information in a document, we've got multiple parties from maybe different organizations that are involved that need some of the information, and we need to based on who they are, be able to control that. That's another great example of where you might use this. Of course, just general privacy concerns around things we've already talked about, like healthcare information, patient information, financial information, for financial records or personal data, any data related to insurance claims and policies and records and those type of things, depending again on who in the process is looking at this or where those documents are being shared to. You could have different things that you might want to redact or protect. And then, of course, all of this is designed to just support the compliance across, lots of different industries have different compliance requirements and laws that they have to adhere to. And so, it's very critical for them to make sure that they are adhering to these laws, these privacy laws. And so again, using things like context-based redaction and PII redaction and PHI redaction, all of these things are going to help them adhere to those laws and stay in compliance. And then bringing a tool in like the contextual-based redaction can just help kind of streamline that, right? And just kind of reduce that risk. So what are some of the challenges and future trends of this? So as you know, AI is changing all the time. I'm sure you're reading about AI every 5 seconds. There's lots of great, exciting advances in AI and how it can be used. But there's also things to think about, right? And so, some of the probably the two most common are just accuracy issues, right? Generating false positives, in other words, redacting things that didn't need to be redacted, which is maybe not as critical, but it's still important, right? Because you might be holding back information that you really needed to be sharing with somebody. And then, of course, false negatives, where it's actually missing something that was sensitive data, which is really a bigger problem, probably because of the legal ramifications. Both of those are challenges, and as the technology gets better, hopefully that risk and that challenge goes down. But another thing that will help kind of prevent that or drive that towards more accuracy is as we move more from large language models to smaller language models that are very specifically trained on very specific tasks. This can really, brought together with this technology of being able to do the contextual-based redaction, can really create great results for your organization. Of course, there's contextual ambiguity around interpreting different languages. So especially if you're a global company and you have, documents that are being shared across, organizations, or your organization or organizations that are global, and maybe it's getting translated somewhere. And just in the general language and the way the language is interpreted can cause some complexity there. And of course, the training data, right? Making sure that you have, very good, solid training data, relevant data that these models are trained on, can be very important. And again, as I said, as we move towards a more smaller, more focused language model, that becomes less of a risk. So a couple things, potential obstacles to consider, just the implementation and maintenance costs. So I think as you look at AI, I think, you see that the costs of this are coming down quite a bit, but it's still important, I think, in a lot of cases for people to be able to self-host this. So of course, the cost, if you can host a smaller, more refined model, that will cost less over time. One of the things that Accusoft offers with our Watson X integration is actually the ability to self-host Watson X. So you can have those LLMs hosted in your own environment. So that keeps your data secure. It's important. And so it is important, to just make sure that you're partnering with a vendor that you can collaborate with, that's going to provide, security, that's reputable, proactively, like looking at your policies and making sure you're updating your policies internally to how do we adopt and use these technologies, and what is the role of these technologies. And that kind of goes up to your employee training requirements, making sure that you're training employees on those policies and how to use and take advantage of this technology. And then just kind of continuous system monitoring. Make sure you have a feedback loop. Make sure that you're looking at the technology and the results, and not just in training the language models, but just looking at it and making sure, like, we achieving from a business perspective what we're trying to achieve with this technology. So that's it for our presentation on context-based redaction. Let's see if we've got any questions. So the first question I got, actually, I think maybe asked before I got this part, was, is this technology available in a self-hosted option? And the answer is yes. So with PrismDoc, we offer PrismDoc in a self-hosted and a cloud-based option, but with our AI specifically, you can have that self-hosted in your environment where you completely control the language models, right? They're not going to be accessed by other organizations. They're not going to be updated with your, you can control them not being updated with data. It won't leave your organization. So you can absolutely do that. We can also offer an integration to IBM Cloud if you want to use IBM Cloud. So I got another question. It's more of a statement, I think, but says that one of the attendees here says that in their pharmaceutical domain that they can definitely tell this will be heavily used feature in the domain. So that's good to hear. Like to hear that kind of feedback. The next question was, is this available in Prism.Cloud? So right now this is only available with our PrismDoc self-hosted option. For the PrismDoc part itself, we can offer the AI in both self-hosted or cloud. We can make it available in Prism.Cloud. Just most of our customers today that really have these kind of security requirements, they have a requirement anywhere they're already self-hosting the PrismDoc option. That's it for questions. I do want to mention that we do have, if you want to scan this this barcode here, or if you want to just drop something in the chat, we'd love to arrange a follow-up meeting with you to specifically talk about your use case in your organization and how this might work for you. There's a link there as well in the chat that you can click on, and that'll just allow you to kind of schedule a meeting, and we can get you on a call with an account manager and product management engineering people to help kind of answer some more questions for you, dive deeper into your use case, and answer any specific questions that you might have related to your organization. So with that said, I think that's it for us today. I want to thank you everybody for joining us. We appreciate your time. We know you're busy, and hopefully you found this to be useful and maybe make you think about some potential use cases in your company, so in your industry. So thank you very much, and have a great day.